Hey lads, welcome to a new series where I play only the Jobava London all the way up to 2000 ELO. The speedrun is called a Blunder Run because I'm not the greatest player. I was able to hit 2100 rapid, and so you're not getting the perspective from one of the greatest players on earth. How is this any different from any kind of video I've made in the past? It's going to be educational, and I'm going to be playing at different reading ranges. I'm only posting wins, and I'm only playing the Jobava London. Don't worry, this is an authorized speedrun account. All my opponents will get their rating back. In today's video, we play against 3 different openings. Game 1, we play the Jobava against a kind of Slav sort of setup with the queen coming out early. Game 2, we played against a sort of delayed Englund Gambit, which was kind of weird. And Game 3, we played against a sort of like French setup. So my first opponent is from the Dominican Republic. They're a 313 rated player. Sorry, my OBS was messed up in this first game, and so you can't actually see the time ticking down or my opponent's name or country. But trust me, they played like a 300. And the Jobava London starts with 1d4. We're putting a pawn into the center, and we're trying to control the center with a few minor pieces. So next is our knight to c3, and then our bishop comes out to f4, and this will be the starting position of the Jobava London. So you're going to be seeing this opening every single game. Now, sometimes we do have to transpose into something else. Maybe, you know, they play c5, which is a Benoni. In this position, my opponent has opted for the Slav defense. Against e4, this is called the Karo-Khan, and against d4, this is called the Slav. Technically, it's only a Slav if I play c4 on move 2, but I played knight c3, so some people would say this is a Karo-Khan against a Jobava, but it's not a Karo for them because I'm never playing e4. And so we're able to just continue by putting our bishop on f4. Now, I could go for traps and tricks, but I just want to show you how I would play this against somebody of this rating range and how I think you should play it. So we've got our knight developed, we've got our bishop developed, and now we're just going to play our pawn up to e3. E3, we protect d4, and it also enables our bishop to look down this diagonal. Now, our opponent has done something that probably a lot of 300s do, and I am not used to seeing this kind of move. Queen to a5, bringing the queen out super early. Now, I could be tempted to go a3 and b4 and try to kick the queen away, but I don't want to do any of that. I just want to play good developing moves. Now, in the Jobava London, we get our knight to c3, bishop to f4, and then these pieces are going to jump into the position as well. So I'm going to start with my knight to f3. Now, maybe he'll come out here and try to pin me. This is often what a lot of people like to do, so that if I move the knight, he could win the queen. But it's not to be. Knight all the way up here to a6 is very strange. He can't jump here, and he could jump back this way, but I mean, I could just take it off and then the queen has to sort of undevelop. If he wants to jump forwards, I could also think about just playing the move a3, stopping him from getting to a good square that he wants to be on. And it looks like his knight wants to come over here and maybe attack on c2, but I really don't understand it. I could capture this knight, but capturing doesn't make sense to me because after queen captures, then I'm not able to castle my king. Bishop coming out to d3 is really where I want to come and look down this diagonal. But then he has the annoying move knight b4, jumping and attacking that bishop. So I don't want to put the bishop on here yet because he could easily trade off. So I'm just going to play a3 here. And this way his knight's not able to jump into the position and I can develop my bishop very simply to d3. Okay, he's developing here. I'm going to continue developing. Bishop to d3. And is he going to long castle? If he does, I mean, my bishop looks very good down this diagonal. Okay, and my opponent's done something really crazy here. They've jumped in with the knight to b4. Now, they might be thinking if I capture, they can win the rook. But my rook's defended by the queen. So this is just a blunder. So we're going to capture that knight. And at this rating range, you should just always question every single move your opponent makes. You know, what are they intending to do? And is that a blunder? Because you're probably going to see a lot of blunders. Okay, so the queen's looking at b2. This pawn is not protected, and I can't push the pawn because then he wins my knight and checks me. Now, I could very simply just castle here, and then he takes here, and I can move the rook over, but then he wins my knight. So I really don't like this. It seems like he might be able to win my knight if I just castle. So what about the move knight a4? And this actually defends the pawn on b2 because he's hitting the pawn. That would be fantastic, but the knight's actually pinned right now, so it can't move. So I'm actually in a little bit of trouble here, trying to figure out a good move, a good way to respond. This is the only piece that's weak, the pawn on b2. So I could play the rook up to a2. I could play over to b1. I could play my queen back to b1, or I could even play my queen to c1 and just defend. Probably all of these moves are okay, so I'm not going to really have to think about this for too long. I think having my rook on this open file is quite nice, so I'm just going to put the queen on c1, defending the pawn. And now I'm just going to castle my king. He's moved his queen 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, so he came out here, then he went here, then he went here. So he's not doing a good job with developing his pieces. These pieces are still stuck. Now, something I could do is continue my development with a knight to a4. This gives him a check, and we could play c3, blocking the check. I think this is fine because I'm allowed to develop, and then maybe I can put my knight on c5. But I think first, let's just play sensible moves. We've got our 4 minor pieces into the game, and now we've castled our king. So this should always be something we try to go for. Get our 4 minor pieces into the game, and then castle the king. And we're able to go to a4 at a later point anyway, because his queen's still here, it seems like. Okay, and he's pushed forwards. Do we want to jump to a4? If we do, his bishop could take, and we take with rook, and then he pushes on our bishop, which is a little annoying. Don't really like that. So instead, what I'm just going to simply do here is probably just take this pawn. This is totally fine to take, and his queen's going to recapture. And now I'm thinking maybe knight a4 was a better move in that position. We'll check after the game just to see if it was, but I'm not really too worried here because we have much better development than our opponent. So the king's still here. We want to keep trying to progress and get our pieces useful. So let's see which is our worst piece. The rook on f1. I think I'm just going to pull it over to e1 and then maybe look at this push. Could be something to look at. So let's start with rook e1. I think I'm going to push first. Yeah, let's push first. Now, what is he going to do? Is he going to capture that pawn? If he does, we're going to recapture with knight and attack the queen. If he pushes the pawn, we're going to pull back and we're going to attack the pawn with both the knights. Okay. Now, I actually have a really nice move here, and it's actually, it's actually an absolutely beautiful move. My opponent hasn't spotted it. We actually have a smothered mate, knight d6 checkmate, because I actually cover this square and this square with the knight, and the pawn can't capture me because it's pinned to the king. So this is checkmate, and it's also a beautiful royal fork. The reason that this tactic has popped up in the game is not because I was brilliant and I tried to set up a nice, checkmate or whatever. It's because he didn't develop his pieces and his king stayed in the middle. So this checkmate is his own fault. So that was a nice game. Let's check the review and see how we did. Okay, we played with an 87.6% accuracy, and I'll just flick through the moves here so we can see everything was pretty good. There was one moment where we made a slight mistake, but we were still winning in the position. So when he came here and attacked our pawn, we could have actually castled, which is very interesting because if he captures here, then I, jump here, and then where does he go? Here, still looking at some stuff. We go up, and then he goes here. I don't know. And then this move, and it seems like he's able to win another pawn there. I don't know. That whole line is a bit crazy, and I feel like a bit engine-like. So I kind of stand by what I did. The principled move of just like defending a pawn that was weak. So that wasn't an issue, but I did still make one mistake in the game when he pushed this pawn and I just captured it. So this move was wrong because I could have actually captured this pawn, hitting his queen. And when he moves his queen, then I can simply get a nice fork here. And I just missed that idea. He has to give up his queen and then I take here. So could have been very nice. Maybe spending a little bit more time. Anytime a pawn moves, look at the squares that it was defending and see, oh, it's not defending anymore. This was always a big threat for me to go in on. Obviously, the checkmate was pretty fantastic, and That's because, again, my opponent's king was left in the middle and he didn't develop his pieces. Let's jump into game 2. I realized there was a mistake with the time on the previous game that I played there for you guys. So apologies about that, but it looks like the time is ticking down now. And again, we're into another game where I'm playing the white pieces, d4 and knight c3. And it looks like my opponent's going for another Slav. No, they're not. Okay, so they've just given me a free pawn here in the center, and I also can't put my bishop on f4, which is typically what you do in the Jobava. But if they're going to give me a free pawn, I'm going to take this. Now, this might be a kind of Englund Gambit, where they often on move 1 will play the pawn immediately here, and we just have to capture. And the Englund Gambit can be quite tricky, but I think maybe he just didn't realize that his pawn was hanging here. Okay, so what we want to do every opening is develop all 4 minor pieces. And so in this position, we're just going to develop our knight to f3, defend the pawn in the center, and look to get our bishop out, and maybe our pawn up, and then our other bishop out. Now here he's giving us another pawn, and I think as a general rule, don't try to grab extra material, because then he's able to develop his queen maybe, or you know, he just gets more development because we're spending time capturing with our pawn. You know, we would waste 2 moves. So here I'm just gonna, we're already up a pawn, I'm just gonna put my bishop on f4, and if he wants to take here, I'm totally fine recapturing on e5. Now the question is, how do I want to recapture? Do I want to take with the bishop, or do I want to take with the knight? Don't think it matters too much, but taking with bishop looks a little better because we're targeting this pawn on g7. And so maybe he goes here, or maybe he blocks with his knight. But yeah, this would be totally fine. Now he also has this trick here that he might have been thinking of. Bishop captures on f2. And if the king recaptures, then he wins my queen. But because I was able to develop my pieces, then my rook was defending the queen. So we weren't in any issues there. And he has fallen for this. So let's just take here on g7 and then look to play e3 and get our bishop out of its starting square, get our king castled. And again, at this 300 ELO rating range, opponents are just going to blunder pieces. And so this makes a lot of sense. You know, they're going to blunder stuff. He didn't see our idea here. We took back the pawn, and maybe he stopped there immediately. He thought, why did my opponent do that? Oh, he moved his bishop because he wanted to take my pawn, but we were also posing a second threat. So what's he going to do here? Maybe he develops his knight, and then we take the rook. Okay, I think this is just a simple piece to grab. We are up to 345. I'll try to do 3 games per rating range. So 3 games from 300 to 400. And then, you know, 3 games from 400 to 500 on this series. So do subscribe to the channel and don't miss these episodes. I hope they are helpful in teaching you how I play the Jobava London. Obviously on this series, I'm going to be making mistakes. I'm not perfect. I already made mistakes in that first game. You know, I didn't play it completely accurately. But hopefully you can see why I make those mistakes. And in the game review at the end, we can see what would have been a better idea to go for. Now here he's jumped his knight into the opening here, and I can just capture, he takes back, and I win another pawn. And I also develop my queen, and queen coming back here looks good, you know, and maybe the bishop can come here and we can get some more pieces off. But I at least see that, like, if I capture here, I'm going to win this pawn. So let's just go for this. Capture, and yes, my queen's going to be loose in the middle of the board. It won't have any pieces defending it, and it won't have any pieces attacking it. I think that's totally okay. And he hasn't recaptured, which is very strange. Now I'm just thinking, let's just, you know, say we got up a piece. We are attacking this pawn twice. We actually can win more material here because of a tactic. So if I capture with bishop first, it's actually wrong, because knight captures, and queen captures, and he wins my 2 pieces for a knight and a pawn. But if I capture with knight first, he can't take with queen because I take his queen. But if I capture here, he has to take with knight, and then I can check him, take his queen off, and then recapture. This is actually a really nice tactic. So check, and this would be a mistake. He has to move his king. And really he only has maybe one good square. Maybe he could come here, I don't know. But yeah, now we're going to check his king and take this with check. because we removed the defender of the knight. Now we're just going to play our pawn up to e3, stopping his bishop looking at f2. We're not going to castle yet because he's looking at this pawn, I think. But honestly, it really doesn't matter because at this point we're completely winning. But let's try to be accurate. Let's play c3 first, because if I play b3, he can check me and then I can't play forwards. Actually, b3 makes sense because the check I can play forwards because the bishop's defending. So let's go with b3, stopping his bishop looking at a2. And if he throws in the check, we can just move forwards. We're going to castle now. And my pieces are all getting developed. Now, yes, I can move my knight to g5, attacking his bishop, attacking his pawn. But he can simply go back to defend. So that doesn't look amazing. I think instead I'm going to try to attack this pawn. So let's move our knight up to e5 and look to capture on c6. So he should probably defend. And if he does, then maybe we can go f3, e4. Not yet, because f3 hangs this with check. So what's the plan here? Bishop here. Okay, so he didn't go into any of those complications. Maybe a more accurate thing would have been to develop first so that the bishop could come to f3. That's probably what the analysis will say at the end. Okay, now we can just simply win the pawn after we capture. So capture, and we take the pawn. And this pawn's also falling on b5. So let's capture this one as well. We're also defending the knight. If he tries to come here to remove the defender, we would capture him. We can just pull back here. If he wants to sacrifice, we take, and yes, he would win this, but not that amazing. I actually can go rook d6, which is kind of an interesting move because he can't approach my rook because the knight's defending the squares. He can't take because I'm defending twice, and he can't move his bishop because it's pinned. So how's he going to deal with this? Maybe he'd go here or here. Okay, so he just took the bishop, so I'm just going to capture, and this bishop can't do anything. So he's decided to move. I think now we can just go for a check, and if he moves here, we can take here, and he has to take the knight. He can't continue with this one, and he can't take the rook because the knight's defending the rook. Okay, now I'm just going to go here, and we'll bring both our rooks into the game and just do a simple ladder checkmate. So rook up to d6 here, and if he goes this way, which is probably what he'll do. Okay, he didn't. We're just going to cut off more squares, so the king can't come off the 8th rank. And now we're just going to put the rook here on g6 and checkmate on g8. No, Owen, rook d8 is checkmate in 1, but nice find, you find a checkmate in 2. GG. All right, let's check the review and then go into a game 3. Okay, we played with a 93.8% accuracy. And just to flick through the moves, he gave us a free pawn, so we took it, did some developing, and we made an inaccuracy developing our bishop here. We should have first tempoed, but I don't think this is a particularly wrong move. We're trying to do a Jobava London. We're trying to defend this pawn twice, which is fine. Here, it wants me to capture the queen off first, so the king moves. And this would be kind of interesting. Maybe we could even castle check and then take this, but yeah, what we decided to do was not a bad move. And now this is really where he made the mistake coming here. He should have taken off the queens and allowed my rook to get developed and then block this thread. And yeah, everything from this point on was pretty clean. We played mostly the best moves. My endgame is not the cleanest, but I think this one was totally fine. And he resigns there. Let's jump into game 3. All right, here we are with game 3. And if we win this, we will be over 400. Knight to c3. And a typical Jobava, we're getting our 2 pieces out onto these squares right at the start. Now, a common mistake at this ELO range would be bringing the knight out to f6. And the reason it's a mistake is because this pawn is quite weak and we could jump in here and go after that pawn with a fork. I'm wondering, can we do this anyway? We could jump into b5. The bishop moves here. And we could take and pawn takes. And he has doubled pawns, which seems kind of like a win-win for us. But probably in the spirit of playing sensible moves, we could just go e3. So let's just play sensible chess and we'll play it this way. So e3, allowing our bishop to get developed, and then our knight also is going to be getting developed. Okay, he's attacking my bishop quite aggressively here, so we're just going to pull back. We don't want to blunder a piece. Always look to see what my opponent does and respond. And now he's developed his knight. And so I'm wondering, can we develop our bishop to d3? Now, the only reason I don't like it is because maybe knight b4 hits my bishop, and I don't want to give up my bishop. I also have this move with my knight. He can push forwards, and then we can jump in, capture, capture. I don't want to calculate too much. The only bad thing about going knight f3 is he can actually put his knight on this square and attack my bishop. So what I'm actually going to do is, I like my bishop on this diagonal. I'm just going to give him a little hidey hole so that he can sit here on h2 and never be annoyed. Okay, he's attacking my knight, and I don't like that. So let's defend the knight with our knight. Maybe he wants to jump in here. He could do something like that. Let's attack his bishop. If he takes here, we can take back with rook at some point. But first he has to deal with this. So his bishop's in danger. What's he going to do? He takes. So let's capture back with the knight. And this pawn is probably going to capture here. We're going to take back with the rook. He has this weird move, attacking my rook, but I don't think it's a big threat. Okay, he goes for it. This is the problem playing these random elos. You see such random games. I mean, I don't even know how to respond. Hopefully the series will be more Jobava theory the later on we get. But yeah, here captures, we can always just capture back. I think we should just pull our rook back to h1, or we can get aggressive with it, put it on this square, although I don't like him jumping around. So let's just pull it back to h1, try to be solid, and I'm expecting him to capture. Okay, he's attacking my queen. We could play f3 and attack his bishop, but I would rather get developed. So let's put our bishop on f2. And if he captures here, I think it's better to recapture with knight, because then the knight's defending d4. If I capture with queen, then I don't have any defenders here. Okay, and he's kind of fumbled a little bit here. He's left this pawn really weak, so I can just capture it. If he captures, we can then take back, and we've won his knight. If he doesn't capture, which he shouldn't, then we've just won a pawn for free. I think the obvious move here is just to capture this pawn. We also are hitting this pawn too, which looks pretty good. And now I am going to blunder probably quite a lot on this series, but hopefully I can be helpful though, trying to show you how I would try to play the Jobava London as these games go. Okay, so right now this bishop's only defended once. We were able to remove one of the defenders because that knight was defending. And so now I can just actually capture this bishop for free. So I'm going to do that. And just like in the last two games, our opponents blunder pieces quite a lot. So we just really need to try to play just safe chess, put our pieces on good squares, and the blunders will happen from our opponents. Okay, he's just blundered again. So let's take that knight. Okay, now his queen captures. Now we can take the pawn with the knight. He could take here. Then we go here with check, and he has to come up, and this is checkmate. So that looks kind of interesting. So I'm very happy if he takes on b2. He's going to move his queen because it's in danger, and this probably looks like a logical square for him to go to. But I don't think he's realizing how weak his king is, because he's left him in the middle of the board without developing. Although my king's in the middle of the board too. I could castle here. That probably is a safe thing to do. More likely than not, he's going to try to defend this pawn, which is quite funny because it's just hit by the bishop here. And probably that's going to be a resignation. Now, is he going to take my bishop back and play on? He might. He abandons. Well, now we're over 400. We played with a 90.5% accuracy with no inaccuracies, mistakes, misses, or blunders. So that's great. It was a weird sort of game. And yeah, this move h3 was totally fine. We could have developed too. And we kicked his bishop first. We could have taken here first. Interesting. And yeah, just pulling the rook back wasn't completely accurate, but it wasn't wrong. And here is the big mistake, because we're able to remove the defender of the bishop. Here, the correct move for him was to take the bishop. We take back, and then he can save this guy. But because he saved this knight first, we're able to win the bishop. And he just started hanging a lot of pieces. And the best move wasn't even to take the queen. It was actually to take this pawn. Crazy. But there's the resignation. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode.